How you doing, JJ?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Good. Excellent. Thanks for joining us. You heard Jaylen Brown there say, I never win bleep after getting the conference final MVP. I ask you, would you have voted for him? Do you think he should have been the conference final MVP?
I think you could make a case for either him or Jason Tatum. I had no issue with Jaylen winning, and I wouldn't have had an issue had Jason Tatum won. I think that's what makes their sort of partnership so unique. On any given night, one of them can go for 40. Jason, in games 3 and 4, had damn near triple doubles. But I look at this Celtics team. I know so much was made early on with Jason and Jaylen about like who was the guy, who was going to be the better player. Can this partnership work? And I just look at what this team is now, today, and how valuable all of the players are in their roles, how everybody is spot in. Joe, I think, has just done an outstanding job this year, and it feels like a true team. And you watch them play, and you talk to them, behind the scenes in our pregame meetings. And obviously, I know a bunch of guys on the team and some of their coaching staff, and that's the big takeaway to me, is just what a team they are, just in terms of their cohesiveness and being connected as a group. And that's hard to find in the NBA. And it's one of the reasons they had one of the best regular seasons ever, and it's one of the reasons they've had one of the best runs here in the playoffs in recent memory.
Do you think Tatum gets over-scrutinized?
Do I think Jason Tatum gets over-scrutinized? Yeah, everybody gets over-scrutinized. That's what I think. I think everybody gets over-scrutinized. Again, if you look at the sort of history of best players on the best team, and by that I mean sort of the superstar who wins a championship, right? A lot of these guys it took till they were 27, 28, 29 years old. Jason had so much success early, and part of that was the partnership with Jaylen and the teams they had. But, the thing I love about Jason, and he was, as a jump shooter, was really, really excellent from like January on through the regular season. He struggled a little bit in the playoffs. He is so much more than a jump shooter. He does so many things on a basketball floor that impact winning, and you could make the case for their top 6 that they all do that. And Joe has gotten, I think, the most out of their bench with Cornette and Peyton and Sam this year. So it's just with Tatum, it's always going to be there. And as Joe always says, if he wins this year, it's going to be there next year. I mean, look at the discourse around Jokic during the conference conference semifinals against Minnesota. It never leaves you. That's part of what we signed up for.
JJ, if they, as I'm sure you know, there's been like a pass-fail sort of all-or-nothing approach or perspective on this season. They either win it or they don't. It's been, pass-fail, for lack of a better term. If they were to not win the championship, why do you think it'll be?
If they don't win the championship, it'll be because the better team won. And playoffs again. But matchups are important, and I think problem solving is important. And sometimes you run into a problem you can't solve, and that's been the case. I think in the history of the NBA playoffs, that's been the case.
JJ, you think there's a chance
the best team wins?
You think there's a chance Dallas is better than Boston?
I don't know if Minnesota is still in there, right? I don't know. Is Minnesota still playing?
Do you think either of those teams are better than the Celtics?
Again, you can't look at a regular season and an 82-game aggregate, and you can't look at a plus-minus net differential, and you can't look at that's the regular season.
How about your eyes? Just your eyes.
I think Boston is the better team.
Okay, so is it possible
that doesn't mean that Dallas won't present a problem or Minnesota won't present a problem that Boston can't solve.
Sure, they would lose.
But I think Boston is the better team for sure. So why wouldn't I think that?
Well, they would lose for a reason other than being a better team. Like that happens, right? You get outworked or outcoached, or
I don't think you get outworked at this stage of basketball.
Right.
I think that's a very asinine way to talk about the NBA. You think the Boston beat Indiana because Indiana got outworked?
No, not in that case. I think Miami outworks Boston a lot of times when they play.
Okay. Well, I'll disagree with you on that.
So you think Miami's better than the Celtics?
You think Miami wants it more? Is that what you think?
I think they're more playoff. Their play style is more playoff conducive. I don't know. How did the Celtics lose to
I don't
Miami?
know. Boston's had a lot of success, man. It's hard to win a championship.
Well, no,
That's
but
why I'll tell you why only one team does.
When we asked you how would the Celtics lose because they lost to a better team, I mean, so you think when they were losing
No,
to
the better team always wins because they present a problem that can't be solved.
Okay.
So you think it's a matchup thing then?
Yeah, that's what all the playoffs are.
So what sort of matchup? Do you think there's any matchups in Dallas or Minnesota, if you want to go there, that would present a problem for the Celtics?
Well, I think in general, one of the things that Dallas has become is, a really good defensive team, particularly against isolation. And Boston, obviously, heavy isolation team. And the reason is the size of P.J. Washington, the size of Derek Jones Jr., Gafford Lively on the back line. Porzingis' health, I think, is important here. Like if Porzingis is the Kristaps Porzingis that we saw all season long, he could be a problem that Dallas can't solve, right? Because his ability to sort of space the floor and also punish mismatches. Again, this is like you get to this stage of the season, and it is a little bit of a chess match. It's not who's outworking someone or who wants it more.
Do you think Porzingis would be able to jump right back in seamlessly after a month off, or would you worry about rust for him?
I don't worry about rust. No, I don't worry about rust. There's obviously going to be a ramp up period. I think in today's NBA, that's what every sort of team does. You get a ramp up period, and so I think it's more just like, is he ready physically? The rust part of it. If he's either going to be ready physically or not ready physically, and the ramp up period sort of requires you to work off that rust.
JJ Redick is joining us from ESPN, ABC, Old Man in the Three podcast, and DraftKings, of course. I want to go back to, like you say, scrutiny is part of the deal there with Jason Tatum. So let's scrutinize him a little bit and read you some numbers here from the playoffs the last 2 years. Okay, minimum 75 3-point attempts. Only 42 players qualify. So these are all starters, big minute guys. 3-point percentage. Among those guys, Jason Tatum is shooting 31% from three. That ranks 40th out of 42 guys. Out of those 42 guys, though, he ranks 7th in 3-point attempts. So, long story short, among guys who play a lot in the playoffs the last 2 years, he takes as many 3-pointers as anyone and misses pretty much more than anyone. Is that a fair thing to scrutinize him over?
Yeah, I already brought that up.
I missed it. You want to refresh? Did you?
No, I said I already brought that up.
You did?
I already said that. Yeah, I said he's struggled with his jump shot in the playoffs. I already said that.
Okay, but how about where he's shooting from? If you're missing that many from behind the line, should you be shooting that many?
I think as a player, you don't want to turn off certain parts of your game because it helps keep defenses honest. Game 3, in Indy, they needed all 5 of those threes, that he made. So, and again, he was January 1st on in the regular season. He was over 41% on off the dribble threes. So he came into the playoffs in sort of a really good rhythm shooting the basketball. But it's fun with Jason because you look at him and he's never going to be defined by his jump shot, right? He's going to be defined by all the other stuff that he does at such a high level on the basketball floor.
So you don't think he needs to play closer to the rim or change his shot selection?
Well, no, because I think he does. So like Game 3, let's say, he created a bunch of stuff for Al Horford with his drives, right? I think 5 of the 7 threes were off Jason Tatum assists. When he did drive and kick, the Boston Celtics shot 4 of 6 from 3. So again, he just does a lot of stuff, and getting caught up in one aspect of his game, is I think just ridiculous.
Do you think, looking at the
25, 10, and 5, 3 guys in this year's playoffs, right?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Who are they? Jokic, Embiid, Tatum, 25, 10, and 5. That's what 3 guys are averaging that.
Okay, so
right.
there's no point in bringing up something that he might not do well. So you say, how did the Celtics lose? I think one of the way the Celtics lose, JJ, is that they shoot themselves out of a game. And I've seen them do that over and over and over again. Lose to teams that are not as good as them because their shot selection, their play style, the reliance on the three-point ball. Tatum feels like one of the worst defenders based on the percentages and what I see. And so that's just something that we scrutinize. If you think that's...
Oh, it's fair. That's your job to scrutinize. I tend to believe in like a 7-game series versus a 1-game series. Like Miami shot better than they've ever shot in their life in game 2 of the first round, right? That was I want to say that was the most threes they've ever made, right? Do we expect them to make 23 threes for five more games? No. So I think when you look at the Celtics, and they were the number 1 three-point shooting team in the regular season for attempts and makes. They're the number 1 three-point shooting team in the postseason for attempts and makes. That's how they play. That's their identity. That's built into it. It's one of the reasons they're successful. They manage their shot profile. They manage the other team's shot profile. And eventually, in a 7-game series, you would assume that the odds say math works, right? Math works.
Of the teams left in the West, and I understand it was 3-0 going into last night, but does one of those 2 teams present matchup-wise a bigger challenge for Boston than the other?
That's a great question. I would sort of lean towards Dallas, to be honest with you. I think Luka being as good as he does, I think that Luka being as good as he is, that does matter. I think both teams have really good defenders individually, and collectively both teams are really good. I think with Minnesota, again, going back to the Porzingis thing, I think Minnesota probably doesn't match up as well, given what Kristaps can do. But I think both teams present their challenges, and it'll be interesting to see too. It's like, I've got a film edit coming later tonight of all the Anthony Edwards ISOs, and I know the Celtics staff will be watching Dallas's defense and sort of how they play and where they can sort of manipulate spacing and manipulate the dunker spot and manipulate who the low guy is on any drive and who the next man is on any help. So, just thinking about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would lean towards Dallas probably just because of Luka.
Yeah. Anyone left to give a coaching edge to? Any of the 3 teams left?
Well, I would say all 3 are awesome coaches. There's a reason that their team is there. I mean, let's just say you had to rank them. You got to analyze the thing and go 1, 2, 3. How would you do that? Well, luckily I don't. No, I think if you get to this stage in the season, you're a well-coached team. You're a well-coached team. And Finchie, who I played for, has done a great job. J. Kidd, I think, has been really good throughout these playoffs, both in game planning but also in game adjustments. And Joe, I think, is one of the best coaches in the NBA. So all 3 coaches are great.
All right. I think Kidd sucks and Mazzulla's potentially a liability, but let's just agree to disagree. JJ, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for taking the time. We do appreciate it.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.